Vegeta's fight against the second Tamagami is better than any Vegeta moment in GT, and I'm willing to argue that with anyone.
Ooh. That's interesting. My dog Big Tune wanted to make a video about which one's better, Dragon Ball Delilah or Dragon Ball GT. I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to hear it. Chat spam up. Are you team Delilah? Are you team GT? Let's hear it. It's a short video, but it's a video that's gonna make some mad.
All right, I think enough time has passed. I've had a chance to watch both series in their entirety, and now I'm going to determine if Dragon Ball Daima is better than Dragon Ball GT.
I've seen both in sub. I actually did go back and see some scenes in dub. I haven't seen the entire episodes back, but I've seen Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3 in dub. I've seen Goku fight the first Tamagami in dub. Yeah, it lives up to it. It lives up to it.
Both series build off of the extreme commercial and critical success of Dragon Ball Z, but take a different approach in how they tell their stories. So I think the first place to compare the two is in their setups. Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball...
Okay, before he speaks, who sets up their anime better? Delilah easily, I'm sorry. Delilah easily. Low-key not close. Actually, no, fuck that. Sorry, GT fans, high-key. The setup to the series, Delilah.
Ball Daima both kick off with major shakeups, but the way they introduce their conflicts and world building sets them apart. GT immediately goes for a galactic adventure setup, throwing Goku, Pan, and Trunks into space, while Daima leans into a more mystical element that had only been mentioned in Dragon Ball Z. But before we get too deep into the contrast, let's break down each series setup and how they handle similar ideas. Dragon Ball GT wastes no time introducing a completely new goal, the Black Star Dragon Balls.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna take credit from that. GT, again, I think GT, even compared to a Delilah, especially to a Delilah, actually, GT of all Dragon Ball series is the one that can say they're not pussy. GT literally said, fuck it, we trying new shit, nuts on the table. I respect the hell out of that. GT literally was like, fuck it, we doing new shit, and you gonna get with it or you're not. But for me, I can't. What am I supposed to say? Peel off in the Black Star Dragon Balls is better than the idea of someone invading with proper reasoning, proper build up to why he would even be doing that out of fear of these motherfuckers. And furthermore, making a wish that, yeah, actually makes sense in regards to what he would want to accomplish, considering what he could do. Also, you got funny lore of Shenron saying, hey, gang, you would get these kind of luxuries with the Dragon Balls, but who the fuck is you, bruh? Get the fuck up on out of here. You already trying to make me slime out my man. You ain't gonna be able to do but so much. Sorry. So yeah, for several reasons, it was more interesting. It was more layered. I honestly think it was more thought out. I like the setup of Delilah more.
So we learned that unlike the standard Dragon Balls, these come with a severe consequence.
Like, who the fuck
After
is you,
being
nigga?
used, they scatter across the galaxy, and if not gathered within a year, the Earth explodes. The twist? Pilaf accidentally wishes Goku back into a child, setting the stage for a back to the basics adventure that ironically feels more like classic Dragon Ball than the later arcs of Z. The early GT setup is really simple. Find the Dragon Balls, save the Earth. There's a built-in timer that keeps things moving, but at this point in the story, there's no singular villain. Sure, we run into obstacles like Legic, Cardinal Muchi Muchi, and the Par brothers, but GT's setup is about exploration first, major conflict second. It's not until Dr. Mew is introduced when we start shifting towards a more Dragon Ball Z type of conflict with an actual mastermind pulling the strings. Daima plays its cards differently though. Instead of a tangible quest, the core mystery initially revolves around an unexplained transformation, not just for Goku, but seemingly the entire main cast. Unlike GT, where Goku is the only one de-aged, Daima shrinks nearly all major characters and forces them to adapt. Instead of looking outward like GT's space adventure, Daima's setup leans inward in understanding the cause of the problem first, then stopping whoever is responsible. And while GT's stakes are immediate, Daima's stakes are more mysterious. The story doesn't give us a clear ticking clock.
I actually like how he broke that down. That's why I got quiet. Yeah, I fully agree with that. GT, again, balls on the table, nuts on the table, said, fuck it, we doing this shit. Delilah literally goes, okay, instead of trying to sit there and make it, damn it, who made me a Todd Goma? Grr, I gotta kill him. They literally were on some shit like, okay, but like, Why would he do that? What are his intentions? What is the entire thing with the fucking demon realm? There was so much mystery to what's going on, not only just with the wish, not only just with the antagonist, but with the world of the series. I fuck with it heavy.
But we quickly learned that the demon world plays a major role. And of course, the major issue that the demon world played a hand in was the main cast being turned into younger versions of themselves. GT and Daima both play with de-aging, but their approaches couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
GT's Goku as a kid gimmick is mostly an aesthetic change. He's still ridiculously strong, he can still use Super Saiyan normally, and there's also a time skip between Z and GT, and Goku is much stronger than he was against Buu, so he doesn't truly struggle until he gets to Baby. There's a slight handicap effect, but GT doesn't fully commit to making it a meaningful limitation. If anything, the only time his kid body really feels like a detriment is when he tries to access Super Saiyan 3, as his smaller body can't maintain the transformation well, but if we're being honest, his adult body couldn't maintain the transformation well either.
I don't even think that's a shot at GT.
That nigga said Super Saiyan 3. Somebody smell like shit!
Daima, on the other hand, takes the concept further by de-aging almost the entire cast. In this series, it isn't just a visual change, it affects their power too. And unlike GT's Goku, who remains probably the strongest being in the universe, Daima's characters actually struggle in ways they wouldn't as adults. Goku has to get used to using this body. Accessing his Super Saiyan forms is genuinely a challenge for him. The series makes it a big deal when Goku finally accesses Super Saiyan for the first time, and decisions like that give Daima storytelling potential that is much greater than in GT. I think it could have been taken a little further if the de-aging was also mental, but I think what we got was just fine.
Yeah,
but the biggest difference,
I understand that, but I wouldn't have fucked with it. I think that'd have been a little too much. Maybe there's a timeline where Tot Goku is reborn, but I think that's a little bit too much because then it just becomes unrealistic as to how they get out. No offense to Tot Goku, because Tot Goku would get some shit done, but I don't think Tot Goku would have solved this issue. I don't think Tot Goku would have went about things the right way. Just definitely not. Tot Bulma's smart. I don't know how smart Bulma as a Tot was. We know what she's able to do when she's 16 per se, but how young was she in Daima? Questions for later. But yeah, even if, let's say, for the sake of argument, Bulma's smart enough to get them back in time, that everything, they still will reach the demon realm. I think the story just plays a little bit differently when you have conversations like talking to the king guy, dealing with Dora's first encounter, Queso, all these other shit. At some point, I think like it would have went wrong. It just seems a little too unbelievable. And then what do you have? Vegeta just fucking hate Goku the entire time. Because younger mental Vegeta would despise everything about Goku. So it would be a genuine Goku versus Vegeta at that point, which sounds hype beast as hell. But then it's like, all right. Then you have Piccolo, as someone in chat mentioned. Now you have Piccolo, who literally, so it's like the world versus Goku. You would make such a Goku pub stomp anime at that point, which although sounds cool, because I've named a bunch of hype beast ass shit, it simultaneously just doesn't realistically work, if that makes sense.
In each series setup was GT's story direction was largely predictable.
Opinion, some
after
of you
the
are
first
just
few
made
episodes.
a fire anime and they should have
Once you
done
understood the Dragon Ball hunt, you knew what was coming. Daima, I didn't fully know where it was going, and that's what made it interesting. From Glorio's involvement to Arensu's to the new Majins, Goma, there were many different elements at play, and because of the mystery that was added, I'm taking Daima when it comes to the setup.
I am as well.
Now here's one thing everyone who watches Dragon Ball must know. Dragon Ball was, is, and will always be the story of Goku. But the way a series utilizes its cast can make or break its appeal. Both GT and Daima—
how they use their cast? Ooh, kill them. Ooh, kill them. Who uses their cast better? So let's see. You have Goku and you have Goku. Pick your poison if you like GT or Delilah Goku more. You have Vegeta and you have Vegeta. Honestly, I could see the argument for GT Vegeta even. In fact, I probably would argue GT Vegeta. You have Bulma and you have Bulma. I could see GT Bulma. I could see that one's more of a flip your coin, but I could honestly see GT Bulma as well. What makes this a major decision for me, you have a lot of the other characters I've yet to name, especially the new ones, and especially characters that I thought were shit like Nahare, who have you redeemed, Queso, the Majin Dooku and the sister Tot bitch, whoever that name is, Piccolo. You have the not Majin Buu, but the dude that looked like Majin Buu that was flying around. You know who I'm talking about. You have all those characters that are actually funny, entertaining, cool, or whatever. And although they're not like GT Vegeta or GT Goku per se, or Baby per se, they damn sure ain't GT Pan and GT Trunks. I'm 50-50 on it, because God, I hate GT Pan and GT Trunks. And GT has Super 17. Yeah, GT for me has lower lows. It does have higher highs as well, but when we're talking about character utilization, slight edge. 6 games, maybe even 7, I'll go Delilah, just for my insane anti-bias for some characters in GT, because there's some characters in GT I just cannot fucking stand. But I do see an argument for GT here, genuinely, because Vegeta is just like, it's not a bad thing, but Vegeta in Daima is just like arms folded, snarling ass, I'm strong too, Kakarot Vegeta. In GT, he's a much greater character, without a shadow of a doubt. If you think GT Goku is better than Daima Goku, I can see that. I think they're pretty congruent, but I can see that. Bulma, I think Bulma just has more interesting shit to do in GT, so type shit to that as well. But when we're talking Android 18, hilariously a better character than some like majority of the side characters that you get in Daima. But when we're talking about the floors, they just piss me off that much. I do see an argument for GT here. I want to see what he says.
Are starting from a post-Dragon Ball Z point. So to me, the question isn't about how these characters grow as much as it's about how these characters are used. And boy, do GT and Daima take vastly different approaches when it comes to that. Like I said before, Dragon Ball is the story of Goku, and I don't think any Dragon Ball series should try to steer away from that.
And side note, you could argue I got a little bit off topic and started naming who has better characters versus character utilization, but I don't think that those conversations are too exclusive, so I merged them.
But GT embraces that idea a little too much. The moment Pilaf makes his wish is the moment GT becomes a one-man show.
Oh,
Pan and Trunks are there, but Goku is the driving force behind everything.
Yeah.
He fights all of the major battles. He's the one who constantly overcomes impossible odds. And when it comes down to it, he's the only one who really matters. And GT's later arcs make this even clearer. Super Saiyan 4 is the ultimate example of Goku's dominance. Vegeta eventually gets it too, but only after needing a machine to forcefully power him up. Even Oob, who was literally meant to be Goku.
I'm playing, it's not that Mickey. I'm fucking with the GC fans that time. I'm trolling. I'm cool with it. I'm fine. I'm playing. Gosh. Oob is a disappointment, though. I'm not fucking around with that.
Goku's successor is sidelined immediately. GT isn't interested in passing the torch. It's making sure Goku holds it until the very end. And I don't have a problem with that, but just don't make it seem like it was supposed to be something else, because Daima doesn't make the same mistake. Goku is still the main character, obviously, but the fact that the entire cast is de-aged means that other characters will actually be dealing with the same core problem. He isn't just carrying a weaker Trunks and Pan through an adventure, he's gonna actually need help, and that changes the dynamics completely. Glorio, Pansy, Vegeta, Bulma, Piccolo, and others have meaningful roles, which is much more than what GT gave most of its returning characters. Vegeta's fight against the second Tamagami is better than any Vegeta moment in GT, and I'm willing to argue that with anyone.
Ooh. That's interesting. Because what you got? Vegeta's moment with Baby, the moment with Super 17, I guess. And then you have when he steps to Omega Shenron. It depends what kind of guy you are. If you're a guy that likes to hear Vegeta rant about his personality, Vegeta wanting to be a last man standing kind of guy, you want to hear like more about the growth of Vegeta, you're gonna like the GT Vegeta when he was fighting Baby or what's it called, Super 17 for briefly, but I'm not a fan of that arc, so sorry. I'm pretty much talking about the Baby moment here. But if you want to talk about, yo, which moment does Vegeta just feel like Vegeta? Low-key, this moment is true. Because this did feel like a peak Vegeta moment. I've always said, Vegeta is at his best when he honestly is in control. When Vegeta is the strongest one in the room, when Vegeta is arguably the smartest one in the room, that is when Vegeta's at his very best. When Vegeta knows what the fuck is going on and how he can manipulate the situation, Vegeta's at his best. And this is a major moment of Vegeta being at his very best right now.
But let's go deeper. How do the side characters in each series actually hold up? Well, for GT, it's rough. There's no other way to put it. I think the side characters might be the series' biggest issue because aside from Pan and Trunks, almost nobody outside of Goku has any real presence. And even then, Trunks spends half of the adventure feeling like he doesn't want to be there, and Pan gets the same sidekick treatment that Bulma got in early Dragon Ball, even though Pan's role—
No, don't ever say that again. Pan is painfully annoying and a nuisance. Bulma in original Dragon Ball had a purpose and just wasn't a combatter. Pan, we're told time in and time out, is a person that is supposed to step in, and every single time she just makes Goku's life harder. Not only that, Pan's dialogue is significantly worse than Bulma's. Don't ever compare the two. Not saying you were, but I'm just gonna say don't ever do it again.
role in the story should have been much different based on her heritage alone. Daima introduces some
Bulma's annoying in Dragon Ball. Bulma's annoying in Dragon Ball if you think that her flirting is annoying, if you think that Bulma just not being a combatant and talking shit is annoying. But let me be very clear. I can find a character like that hilariously more acceptable than a character who is supposed to be a combatant, a character who is supposed to step in and tell you, hey, it's my turn now, I can fight too. And then it's just holy shit. It never happens. It never works for you. You're always in the fucking way, and genuinely could be argued if you had stayed at home, shit could be handled a lot better. A lot better. You could argue Bulma being essentially a teenage girl and having teenage girl anti-traits, because that's basically what they do a lot with that character. They give her like the worst teenage or the most cliche teenage girl traits. That annoys you to the point where you think she's a worse character than GT Pan? My nigga, I guess. Like word to switcheroo, because I seen that shit the other day. I guess. I guess. I ain't got nothing else. But if that is a hard carry for you, fine. But I think that is ridiculous to even consider that Dragon Ball Bulma, with her flagrant flaws, is worse than fucking GT. Not even close. I think you niggas have lost your mind.
No characters that add some personality. Crazy. Glorio goes from a character who is skeptical about Goku and his friends to someone who is in absolute awe of their power. He transforms from a character with questionable intentions to a character that betrays his master in order to do the right thing.
I'll say this. This was a little more underwhelming than I thought until it turned into main event queso. Glorio's character arc, maybe it's because his brother, his brother that kidnapped Dende, that shit fell flat. That was a nothing burger. But once he turns back face, that he became interesting.
Watching Pansy being able to explore her world with Goku was a treat. She has a curiosity for life similar to Goku. Character utilization goes to Daima as well. Now this section is probably the easiest to break down and see which one is better, and that's going to be the art and animation. Now it's inherently a little unfair to
yeah, okay, he's saying it too. That's not nice.
Compare the two. Dragon Ball GT and Daima were both released weekly, but Daima had the luxury of its team having a schedule that gave them more than enough time to finish these episodes. I'm not sure exactly when production for GT started, but the GT anime started in the same year Dragon Ball Z's anime.
The only thing I will say to give, and I don't want to turn this into a Delilah sweeps GT, because there are some things that GT does better. It depends if he brings these things up. And we're going to read the comments because of if he can bring these things up. I'll say this. I would still say it's valid to give Delilah a point here and let them go up 3-0, because GT animation can just be straight up bad. I'll just go there. I'll tell you the truth. It is what it is. Womp it up all you want. GT animation at times can just be horrible for no fucking reason. So yeah, I would even say, considering just animation, even relative to eras, yeah, it gets pretty bad.
ended, and I assume GT began production around the time Z ended. Daima was finished before it even aired, and because it was a celebration for the 40th anniversary of Dragon Ball, some of the best animators were involved. Shikashi Kubota, Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, Naohiro Shintani, Yuya Takahashi, and Tadayoshi Yamamuro all had something to do with Daima, and it was only
I feel like a fucking nerd for knowing some of these things. I forgot which one of the four it is, or maybe it's not one of them, but if you ever see like major bold lines, that's a specific motherfucker. I like how he draws his art lines. Like, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, there's a certain animator in Dragon Ball. I don't know if he just named him or not, to be fair. I'm not that tapped in. But there's a certain animator in Dragon Ball that you know it was him when the character lines are like bold as shit.
Episodes.
No, the character lines
Dragon
are
Ball
bold
GT
as shit.
had its moments,
You know it was
but
him.
I'm not exaggerating when I say
And I
that
fuck with
every other episode was iffy at best. Daima gets this one too. Now I know I'm giving every point to Daima, but this next one isn't so easy of a decision. Since Dragon Ball Z, this franchise has been almost exclusively about action. And with action stories, you normally have two sides, the good guys and the bad guys. And throughout Dragon Ball, the good guys have been pretty consistent.
GT stomps an antagonist. GT hilariously stomps an antagonist. And mind you, it has the worst one of all time to me, but it still stomps. Baby does solo. If Baby doesn't solo, I tell you Omega's better. If Omega isn't better, damn, Nova's better and Ice is better. Yeah. I could name honestly 5. Yeah, there is at least 5 antagonists in GT that's better than Goma. Yeah. GT stomps.
In terms of their quality.
Don't even
and
need
the
to
big
yap
reason
about it.
for
GT
that is
stomps.
because they've been the same
GT
group of
stomps.
characters. But the quality of a series antagonist has always
Antagonist
varied
is
in the
over
Dragon
with.
Ball franchise, and Daima is no exclusion. I'm not really going to talk about the Tamagamis here. I don't really view them as antagonists, but Daima really pulled a bait and switch with the new Majins, and that frustrated me. The way Arinsu and Glorio were initially framed made it seem like they were going to be a true secondary threat that could add depth to the conflict.
True.
And the new Majins were a big part of that. But seeing how they just ended up essentially failures was a letdown. And then their shift from potential antagonists to allies felt way too abrupt. Enemies have always become allies in Dragon Ball. I don't have a
I can
problem.
see that because you could have swore they were gonna fight Boo and Goku, and it didn't happen. That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's fair. Fair criticism.
With that, but it normally
criticism.
happens over time. In Daima, it feels like it was crammed in at the last second. And I think pacing is the big issue here. If this twist had happened earlier, there would have been more time to sit with it, maybe even build some tension around why they were helping rather than just flipping sides instantly. But because it happened so late in the 20 episode series, I think it was like the writers just needed to clear them out of the way so the focus could be on Goma. And speaking of Goma, yeah man, he's just another strong for the sake of being strong villain, which is getting exhausting.
Yeah, he was interesting until he got strong, unironically. The second he got strong, he just became I am strong. That's very true. That's just straight up a criticism that I don't even think the biggest Delilah stan would sit there and deny. He literally was interesting. He was a goofy character that was in control, but like you wanted to test his gangsta all the time, but then you could kind of see that, oh, hey, if he gets this eye, he will be like kind of strong. But you would expect him to be like conniving or like a cheeser. And that's another thing. He does become a cheeser, but his cheeser is, you can't beat me unless you hit me in the back of the head 3 times. I guess. Like, I would want him to spam, like, weak-ass shit that makes them, like, still feel weaker than our fighters, but they just aren't strong enough to overcome the weak-ass shit, like paralysis or telekinesis or some shit like that. But he literally just becomes, you can't kill me, ooga booga, and he grows the more that they can't kill him.
He had no interesting ideology, no deeper goal, just another roadblock for the Z fighters to punch through.
Yeah.
If Arinsu and Glorio had remained threats with their own agendas, it could have made for a much more unpredictable story, but instead, we got another one-dimensional powerhouse that didn't really leave a lasting impact.
Now, I'm all for Glorio ending up deciding to not be an antagonist. Where I agree with Toon is the idea that there was never a conflict with Glorio's sister and the Majins. Not saying that it had to lead to some climactic battle, but it really was just never like, they were never in the way. It was never even like, but one conversation that I felt like they were an issue with our protagonist. So that I give Toon. If there was like 10 more episodes in Daima, I guarantee you that would have been a thing. But I'm all for Glorio not becoming an antagonist. I think that was actually natural for the character, considering he was with the Z Fighters the entire time. And he was like, oh, these niggas actually pretty fucking cool. So I'm fine with that.
I simply can't say the same about GT. GT has one really good antagonist and another solid one with a very good concept. I don't know if I'd agree, but a really good argument could be made that Baby is a top 4 to 6 Dragon Ball antagonist ever. He had a solid background,
For sure.
a genuinely interesting motivation,
For
and a
sure.
unique set of abilities.
I don't know if
Even
he's 4 necessarily, but yeah, when you talk about the top tier Dragon Ball villains, he's in the conversation.
Super 17. No, I'm just playing.
Thank you.
Omega Shenron, I mean, just the Shadow Dragons in general was a good concept. The execution was shaky, but I mean, that's really the story of GT. Comparing antagonists between these two series isn't fair.
Even when he gives y'all credit, he's sticking the dick. Yo, Tune is an asshole. Goddamn, man. Goddamn.
One is clearly better than the other, and that's GT.
For sure.
Now, the last aspect I'll compare between these two series is the power scaling and transformations. But if we're being honest, this is really a conversation of which Super Saiyan 4 you like more.
I'm gonna say it like this. I'm gonna let Tune get his shit off later. I'm gonna say it like this, man. Do I think that the Super Saiyan 4 and GT look cooler just as an artist? Yeah, it does. However, I ain't gonna lie. Which Super Saiyan 4 I just like fucks with? I'm not gonna lie. When you had Tot Goku running on all fours, Tot Goku hitting a backflip out of KO or 360 Kamehameha, Dragon Fist only do so much for me. I ain't gonna lie. It's close to me. It's close to me. It's close to me. But like, which one visually looks cooler? It's this one. You could argue both don't make sense necessarily. That's fine. But like, shut up. Both literally look fucking cool. Who cares?
You like more. Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta was cool to see, but it's secondary compared to Super Saiyan 4. Now, from an aesthetic standpoint, I think both variations have their positives.
Yeah.
For Daima, I like that the form can be utilized in his younger body, and I also like the color choices. From the fur to the hair color to the eye color, I like how uniform it
looks
is.
very good.
For GT, I enjoyed the process to achieve the form. I think Super Saiyan 3 is as far as the golden-haired form should have gone, and with GT having a different tone, Super Saiyan 4 was introduced at the perfect time.
Yeah, like that just
and I think
looks raw.
Daima should have incorporated needing to become a great ape to achieve the form. In both series, it's obvious that the form takes on attributes of an ape. I mean, even more so for Daima. With the big hands, long arms, and running on all fours, I'd rather see a great ape transformation to get there, rather than us seeing Never bring the power out of him, and later
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the way that it happens, GT, for sure. Not even close.
learning that Goku just trained really hard because Buu was so strong. So GT gets another point from me when it comes to power-ups and forms it introduced.
Yeah.
So let's
The only thing that you would even conversate is if you are a fan of the fact that because they train, it feels more earned. You could argue in defense of Daima or why Daima's transformations are better. At least Goku trained for it and couldn't tap into the power. At least Vegeta trained for it, and there you go. You see it, but one day he'll think it's fucking stupid. By the way, we're talking about just the series, not you trying to tie into why it makes sense in Super. And then you would have to make the argument that Super Saiyan 4 and GT is an ass pull. You can do it. You can do it. I'm not necessarily saying I would do it, but you can sit there and say GT and Super is just the Elder Kai holding back information the entire fucking time. That's fucking weird and stupid. And Super Delilah, yeah, sure, GT's looks cooler, but at least it feels more earned because Goku just couldn't tap into it. Both are pretty Mickey. Therefore, I'm running with Daima. Let alone it does Daima's transformation appeal more to the great ape shit versus literally becoming a Super Saiyan great ape for like a minute type shit. That would be the argument. I would still say I probably agree with Toon, slight edge to GT's transformations, because I think we're just talking about Super Saiyan 4. Baby's transformations look pretty cool. I like Baby's transformations in regards to Baby's storyline and character. GT Goku's, the scene where he sees when it, like Pan's one scene that didn't piss me off when she helps Goku transform. I like that scene a lot more than Never just extracting out the bloodline rules in Goku. When you have the Shenrons, actually let me take that back. I'm not a fan of the Shenrons in Super 17. So yeah, we're basically just discussing this baby arc here. Yeah, I like those two a little bit.
Let's go over this. The setup goes to Daima. Character
Size
utilization goes to Daima. Art and animation goes to Daima. Antagonist,
Don't forget Majub. Like I said, so we're sticking to the baby arc here with Baby and GT Super Saiyan 4 Goku.
Goes to GT. In power-ups and transformations, it's close, but I give that to GT as well. That's 3-2 in Daima's favor, and I agree with that. Dragon Ball Daima is better than Dragon Ball GT.
Oh, fuck.
It's a funky comparison because one is 64 episodes and the other is 20, and more so meant to be a celebration of the franchise. But even if you take the best 20 episode section of Dragon Ball GT and compare it to Daima, I still think Daima is better. But let me know in the comments what you think.
Ooh. Okay. So here's oh wow, these are two other funny videos to do. Here's the thing. I know what them comments gonna look like. So you didn't count this category, that category, this category, that category. It's how you structure what you view better. Because you could go ending for ending, GT stomps. But at the same time, you could sit there and go, as he said, take the peak 20. Peak 20 and peak 20. Oh, Delilah. So it's literally how you break it down. If you're going to do it via checklist, game 7 type of thing. I think overall, though, as an anime, which is better, I have to say Delilah personally. I think I'm going Delilah just because it was a world building thing, one, and it knew the tone it wanted. My biggest criticism with GT has always been GT kind of not knowing what it wants to do at times. Sometimes GT is trolling, sometimes GT's dead ass serious, and it's not a thing of an arc to arc situation. I would be fine if it was arc to arc situation. GT, literally, one episode is so unbelievably serious. This is the fate of the universe. Then the next series, next episode, hell, next minute, they're trolling. It's a little. If some people like that shit, and it's more than just comedic character moments, but some people like that shit, I wasn't a fan of it. So I think for me, the tone of the series, the stakes of the series, even, I support Daima way more than I do GT there, and that's a major point as to why I like Daima more. But let's read the comments. This has got to go to Daima. To me, Daima's biggest problem was the pacing in the second half. It should have been closer to 30 episodes, but I don't think there were any glaring issues. Yeah, Daima should have been longer, for sure. That's not even just me wanting hype B shit, but Daima either A, should have been longer, or B, packed up those 2 filler episodes. One was the giant one. The other one, I can't remember, but there were 2 episodes that felt like nothing burgers. If those 2 episodes were dedicated to either with the more world building that meant something to the story, or to Glorio's plot line if he likes the characters more type shit. Yeah, if Daima had more time, I think this would be a lot easier to say Daima. I would definitely say I had more fun with Daima than I did GT. I feel like he's a YouTuber. Care reviews. I feel like we reviewed some of his anime. Hold on. Intermission. Yes, he is. Yeah, we definitely reviewed some of his videos before. Shout out to Key Reviews, man. He's taking Daima as well. Oh, this is Justin's Den. Personally, I got to give it to GT. Don't get me wrong, GT has a lot of issues, but so does Daima. Overall, GT just felt truer to the continuation of Dragon Ball Z. Daima felt more of a filler series. Wow, that is interesting. I might disagree. I think if one had to be a continuation, that's interesting. So here's the argument. For GT being a continuation, things like, the Dragon Balls, y'all are fucking around with that shit. You're fucking around with the shit too much, and these are the consequences. So I definitely could see that argument. But Daima, I feel like if you had Majin Buu and you briefly touched upon the Demon Realm, especially when we're talking about continuation of Z, the next step would kind of be to have a Demon Realm-ish arc kind of thing. So I see both sides. I'm not triggered by it. I could even talk myself into agreeing with him, but it's one of them things where I don't know if that's something I'm just gonna die on and therefore think that it's better. Because I think both have a claim to that exact sentence, that they're a better continuation of the series. GT is still better than me. I think it was better and gets too much flack. All post-Dragon Ball Z media has flaws, but GT just seems to get the least exception, while all the newer stuff gets praised on the basis for being new. There are things in GT that I think were better. Like what? Daima to me just feels like an extension of Super with shared issues I had with it. Like ass pull, new forms, no characters, really struggling. Okay, but okay, never mind. typed a paragraph, but it's just his emotions, respectfully. Modern Dragon Ball is so bad now that people are making videos debating if it was even worse than GT. That tells you everything you need to know. No, no, Daima wasn't so bad that we're like, is it worse than GT? The point of the video is that there is a lot of similarities by concept and literal eyes on Goku alone with GT and Daima, hence the video. Yeah, don't be a fucking Scrooge. Easy win for GT. It introduced two of the absolute best villains with the whole friend too. Made the Dragon Balls totally relevant again and has Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, which is the king of Dragon Ball games. Okay. Gang, hey, like I said, depending on what you ask for, you can argue GT over Daima. I don't give a fuck what you like more. However, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, king of Dragon Ball games, is a point. That's stinky. That is stinky. That is like saying that Naruto introduced Shisui, the king of Naruto games. What? That's stinky. That is disgusting. Daima content-wise is just a lesser GT with worse villains. See, there you go. If you're gonna make an argument, make an argument. And only having Vegeta as Super Saiyan 3 and not 4. And then you go back to stink. So, these are the comments on TSO videos that I'm like, how did 7 people go there and say, facts? The idea that you don't like Daima more because Vegeta doesn't get Super Saiyan 4? Okay. The Baby Saga outshines Daima by miles. That's fair. I wouldn't say by miles because I think the mystery of Daima as a series in whole is very interesting. And furthermore, if you're going to say baby arc GG's, but then we bring up, okay, outside of the baby arc, GG's, that compels the conversation. If you're going to tell me one arc pub stomps a series, but the other 3 are inferior to it, in my opinion, if it ain't baby, Omega, the Shadow Dragons, the Daima, and then the other arcs. So by that point, the conversation is definitely valid to have. If you're gonna have, yeah, sure, an arc is better than the series, in your opinion at least, and probably mine. If an arc is better than the series, but then the other arcs are way worse, that's a conversation. Personally, no, GT has many flaws, but Daima has even more. The only thing it has going for is nostalgia and an animation. Untrue. Bro, Piccolo literally does nothing in Daima. Like, he had no purpose in going to the Demon Realm. Y'all want to kill him? He ain't that wrong. He ain't that wrong. Cap, and you name the moment. What does Piccolo do? He sits there, or farms. That's about it. He's given the task to hit Goma in the back of his head, and Majin Buu does it. He really doesn't do that much. That's a very fair point. Besides Baby, the ending in Super Saiyan 4, what else can you... Well, I mean, damn, that's 3 pretty big deals. What else can you say name about GT that's good? See, I hate when people make arguments about this. Because if you're going to name one thing, fine. You name 2? All right. You name 3, especially one that is the highlight of the other series. And you made an argument that makes me believe GT just is hilariously better. Besides Baby, the ending, and Super Saiyan 4. You goddamn. Shit. That's... You made a pretty good point for GT. You made a pretty good solid point for GT being better. I don't know. Can't be the sidecast, can't be the world building, definitely not the fights. Good concepts mean nothing if not executed well. See, there you go. The second half of this comment is way better in support of Daima, but the first half, absolutely not. But yeah, me personally, I'm team Delilah. I do think Delilah, if it had 10 more episodes or them 2 filler episodes were just more fleshed out episodes, it could have been a not close situation for me. I do think it is close. I do think Baby is a significantly better antagonist than Goma, all these other Japanese things. But at the end of the day, I think Daima just does some cool shit as well if we're just going to talk about hype beast Ooga Booga stuff. But let me know your thoughts. I think this is a conversation regardless. You could flip-flop either way. I just, me personally, if you're asking me, one, I think the plot of Daima is more interesting outside of the Baby arc, which you can go back and forth on, for me at least. But even then, I can't ignore the anchors. It's some of the shit in GT just pisses me off. I can't do it. GT does have peaks that are probably just straight up higher, like the ending, for example. But I cannot. Some shit in GT makes me mad. But if these things don't make you mad, if Super 17 doesn't make you mad, let alone you like them, if Blue Jiro doesn't make you mad, let alone you like them, all these other things, then yeah, this probably isn't a conversation. Let me know your thoughts below. Take care, stay blessed. We'll probably watch GT again one day because that honestly seems like the next step. GT fans ignore too many flaws. Look, man, look. There's a lot of super fans in chat, so to be fair, the super fans do that too. But GT fans, y'all do that shit. I ain't gonna lie. Y'all do that. Keep it a band. Y'all do that.
Bye.